All right, Uncle Sam FM here to talk about the exciting world of MLS roster acquisitions. So, thought what I would do real quick is just kind of go through all of the different methods of player acquisitions there are in Major League Soccer, and maybe look and see some of the ones that I did during my off season. I'm actually already into my second season with Houston, 2018. I had hoped to do one before the season started to kind of recap my off season because this is a series about my season with the Dynamo as I try to win the Club World Cup. That's my ultimate goal. I want to try. I haven't won it with an MLS team in the last few versions of Football Manager, and I'd like to make that happen. And that is a huge challenge because of how difficult it is to build a team good enough to do that in MLS. So, yeah, I'd actually hoped to start before the season, but last night I actually went with my wife to. She plays in an orchestra, and we were going to have a date night after she finished rehearsing, practicing. I'm not a musician, so I don't know what they call that. So I was there for 2 hours, and I really, I had nothing to do except whip out my laptop and play FM while they were rehearsing. So I did that and got into the season. So I think I'm like 4 games in. So we'll look at where I am so far and look at the off season. But the first player acquisition method that everyone knows, well, I guess most people know because it's so common with American sports, is trades. Unfortunately, I did not have any trades in the off season, and I don't do that a lot because, frankly, the players that other teams in MLS acquire are just not good enough for me to trade for. And if they are good enough for me to trade for, the teams don't want to let go of them unless you basically give them your whole team. So I didn't actually go through with any trades, but just to see how it works, if I wanted to. So like if I went to say the Galaxy, and I decided I want Giovanni Dos Santos. Dos Santos is actually a really good Mexican player. So let's say if I wanted to trade for him, I would go to transfer and then trade. And this is where I would offer things, general allocation money, for example. You say, hey, will you give me Dos Santos for $500,000 of general allocation money? I doubt they would make that deal. Maybe they would, maybe they wouldn't. I could offer them players. So if I wanted to give them, say, Mimo Rodriguez, I could offer them draft allocations, maybe my 3rd round pick, so on. And then if you have international slots available, then you can trade those away. And those are when I do trades, I like to trade for international allocation spots. International player slots, because the more of those you have, the more international players you can have, obviously. And so, most of the time, the best Americans go overseas because they just can get more money overseas. That's just kind of how it works. That's true in FM as well. So because of that, the best players you can get are international players. Usually, I mean, you can get Americans that are really good, but your best players often are going to be international players. So you want to try and get as many of those as you can. And teams will try to trade for yours all the time if you've got one open. But I don't have one open, so I can't offer it. So if I wanted to go through with this trade, this is what I would do. That's how it works. And we talked about allocation money. That's, like we said, that's basically monopoly money. It's it's like I have a transfer budget. If you go to finances, if I'm remembering correctly. Yeah, so my transfer budget right here is almost $5 million. But my allocation money is like 500,000, as you saw there. So transfer budget is for signing foreign players, and we'll transition into that now. So in MLS, you're allowed in Football Manager and MLS, you're allowed 6 what we call discovery signings. And discovery signings are basically foreign transfers, any sort of foreign transfer. I actually did have, we'll go to my transfer history. I did have what you call a discovery signing. As we look at my N, I went and got Sergei Palencia from Sergei Palencia. I guess that's how Sergei Palencia from Barcelona. Now, I loaned him in, but that still technically counts as a discovery signing. Loaned him from Barcelona. Really kind of surprised they were willing to give him. He's probably the best right back in the league. Just immediately steps in, and he's probably the best in the league. Obviously, the kind of player I like. At fullback, he's a guy that's going to get forward and make a difference out wide, and he has so far. So if I were to go and sign a foreign player, do an actual foreign transfer, that would fall under the discovery signing. And the way it works in real life, and you kind of have to think of Major League Soccer a little differently than you do foreign clubs, because the Major League Soccer operates under the idea that it is a single entity. So all of the 24 clubs in MLS are a single entity. They're not 24 separate entities. I think there's 25 now with Nashville. So in MLS, the league owns all of the player contracts. The clubs don't own the player contracts. The league owns those. And so when I go and bring in a player, like I loaned in Palencia, it's not the Dynamo loaning in Palencia. It's Major League Soccer loaning in Palencia and then allocating him to the Dynamo. So the way discovery signings work in real life is that clubs go and they scout, they look for players, and they will then put them on the discovery list, and then they get the player from that list. And you're allowed to take 6 players from the discovery list every year. And unless that's changed in real life, I'm not sure. But so in Football Manager, it's really difficult for them to recreate the single entity concept. So the way they do it is they just say you can only sign 6 foreign players, and they call that discovery signings. Right? So you have trades, you have discovery signings. Trades are domestic transfers. Discovery signings are foreign transfers, and that you use your real money for, your actual transfer budget. And then you have homegrown signings, and I did do a homegrown signing, although I think I looked at that before the last video. But this is the player I signed from my academy, Phil Johnson. He's a striker. I actually have the only other player worth signing from my academy is another striker, Frank Stewart. But I only use one striker, so I could get him, but probably I'd need to retrain him as a winger. He is at least, he's unconvincing, but he has a little experience at right wing. But he's only 16, so I'm going to let him kind of develop another year. There was one more. Oh, Escobedo. Yeah, again, another striker. And he has not played any at winger. He's apparently played a tiny little bit at center mid. But I may end up signing him before the end of the season, before he leaves the Dynamo Academy, and then maybe try and trade him away. But the player I did sign was Phil Johnson, who is a decent prospect. What really kind of convinced me to sign him was a couple of things, because he's not great at his mentals. Like I'm not normally crazy about a 10 on determination. I'm going to try and probably get somebody to tutor him to bring that up. But his 15 with finishing and his 13 with pace, as a 17-year-old, those are both relatively high ratings, which can be can be good, right? I mean, 15 with finishing, and also 11 composure. Those two ratings for a 17-year-old are promising. So if I can get those up, then he's going to be able to do a striker's job and score goals, right? I don't necessarily need him to be the best passer on the team. I just need him to finish. I need him to be the last guy. If nothing else, if I don't like the way he develops, because his ideal role right now as a poacher I could trade him away and get some assets or sell him. And he was free, right? I didn't have to pay for him. I signed him from my academy, developed him. The club developed him, so that would be all profit. So that was my homegrown signing. And then obviously free transfers are another way to acquire players. I did 2 of those. So after my draft, which I got 5, we'll talk about the drafts here in a moment. But I got 5 guys in the super draft, or is it 6? Yeah, I guess it's 6. I didn't realize I had that many picks. So I got 6 draft picks. And I had 2 guys on my first round board, which I make a board, which if you watch my super draft episode, I make a board with usually at least 2 rounds. For this one, I made it up to I made an entire full rounds of draft where I ranked the players 1 through 96 because there's 4 rounds of 24. So after the draft, there were 2 guys on my first round board that were still available, and they did not get drafted. And when a player doesn't get drafted, they become available to sign for free. So I went and signed Rick Ortega, who is a midfielder. He's a attacking mid striker, and that's usually the kind of I like that kind of player because most of the time. He possesses the qualities that I want my center striker to have, right? I don't really look for the big, giant target man. That's not really one of my... that's not how I play. Ortega didn't have necessarily all the qualities that I like, but I did go ahead and sign him. Again, he's 15 in finishing, 10 in composure. He is 21, but there's still hope for him to develop some of those ratings. So I did go ahead and sign Ortega. Again, he was in the first round in my draft board, and then I signed a right back, Billy Denny. This was partly because I have needs at right back, but then also I was pretty high on his board. Now he mentals he's got a lot of work that's got to be done, especially for a 22-year-old. So somebody's going to have to tutor him. So those are my 2 free transfers. They work the same as any other league. Next was waivers. So what happens is in MLS, because MLS owns all the contracts, when a player gets released in foreign leagues, you'd call it giving them their free transfer, right? You're releasing them, you're letting them go. For foreign clubs, most leagues that I've played in at FM anyway, you do have to kind of pay a little bit to release somebody. In MLS, there's no cost. You just waive them. They're just off the roster, which I did waive Philip Senderos. And he was waived after I turned in my registration. In MLS, you can, when you register your team, anybody that you don't put on in your registration is released. They're waived. And so they go to a waiver list. And when a team releases a player, clubs can then go and claim that player off of waivers, other MLS clubs, because like with Senderos, MLS still owned his contract. MLS still owned Philip Senderos, and rather than just completely let him go, they decided to. What MLS does is they allow other teams the opportunity to sign him, and so. That's kind of what happened. Nobody did, I don't think. I think he's still free agent. So, but then after he clears the waiver list, then he's released, and I would technically, I think, own his rights after he clears waivers. So if anybody does want Senderos, they'll have to negotiate with me to get him. So that kind of transitions us into the drafts. Okay, so. After the super draft, we'll come back to the super draft, but after the MLS roster registration, squad registration, they have a draft for all the players who did not make it on their club's registration, league registration. Everybody who was waived is put on this list where clubs can then draft. They have a draft, and you select players that were waived. I drafted in the waiver draft 2 players. I got Darwin Sarin, who I actually had already had, who I don't really like because he shoots from distance so much, but he's still got good ratings. He's still a decent midfielder. And for my club, I kind of wanted to have a little more. I had room on my squad. He would come in as a senior roster. I had a couple places open. I could use a midfielder who can, do the job a little bit. He's not going to be a first teamer, but he will help for me to bring along some of my younger guys. So I did go ahead and draft him, and I'm immediately trying to get him to stop shooting from distance. And he's 28, so he's not old. So he is, I thought he was a good drafting. And then another player that I drafted in the waiver draft was Breck Shea. Shea actually had been waived, I think by Vancouver. And so I drafted him in the March waiver draft. He's a left-sided player. He can play almost any position on the left side. My plan is to play him as a left winger, or left wing, because that's where my need is, really. If I want to drop him back to left back, I can, because he is able to do that. He's got good pace at 15, good finishing, good crossing, good dribbling. Not great at any of those things, but he steps in, and he's probably my best left winger, at least one of my best. So super draft. I went over in the one video, but these are players from college or sometimes high school who are these are the top prospects, and so I did draft a few of those. Go back to my transfer history. As you see, I got 6. I was able to acquire 6 draft picks, and these are the guys I picked. My first pick was Raul Alonso. He's a left winger, decent prospect. And then Martin Mendoza. Martin Mendoza was actually my first draft pick. Sorry, he's a goalkeeper, a place where I want to upgrade. And he's already pretty close to being as good as Chris Seitz. He's almost better than my starting goalkeeper. I fully expect by the end of the season he will be. Certainly by next year he's going to be my starting goalkeeper. I still have Seitz. He and Seitz will kind of split time, but that's Mendoza's a good draft pick. Richards is another winger. I drafted wing heavy, but these were the best players available, and that's just how I draft. I don't worry about my needs when in a super draft. I just get the best possible players I can, and then sort it out later. Omar Martinez, actually picked him higher than Richards, and as you can tell, he's developing faster. But overall, Richards is actually a little better. But I had Martinez higher on my board. Ramirez at center back. Center back was a place of need, and Ramirez is in the technicals. He's already pretty good. He's one of my best tacklers and markers. I don't have many defenders with ratings that high in both of those categories. He needs to improve on his heading, and I would like for him to be faster because I do play with a higher line. But in his development, why did I get to that guy? Christian Ramirez. Where are you, Ramirez? Oh, I might have loaned him out. I did. I loaned him out. Okay, so that's kind of why. So he's loaned out. Lopez, fullback, drafted him. He plays on either side, which is good for me because I'm needing to develop players on both sides. So ratings aren't great, but he does have 3-star potential. So he probably isn't going to be a great fullback, but he'll be serviceable in MLS. So that was my super draft. We already kind of went over the waiver draft. And then the re-entry draft is at the end of the season. That's when that's for players whose contracts are running out and the club is not going to re-sign them. Which again, MLS, the league owns the contracts. So they're going to let those players have an opportunity to be drafted and negotiate contracts with the new clubs. So those are the player acquisition methods. It's not near as daunting as what it might sound. It's not that much different. It's not entirely different from other leagues. The real challenge is getting those players under the wage cap, the salary cap. And so as we look at my registration, I was fortunate in that I was able to get all of my players under the salary cap. I'm paying out $4 million in salary, as you can see, and the cap is $4,050,000. So I'm close, but I did not go over. Now, let's say that I did go over. If I was at 41 million and I needed to get under the cap. Before, in previous versions of FM, and this is because it's kind of how the league worked, I would have had to have released somebody. I'd have had to have cut someone. But that's not the case anymore, as Football Manager has finally accurately recreated the idea of using allocation money to pay down a player's salary cap impact. So let's just say, I'm looking at my salaries here. Let's say I was over the cap and I needed to get somebody's salary down. I would pick one of my guys with a big... It depends on how far over the cap you are. But let's say you need to get a lot of money off the books. So I would pick one of my guys with a higher salary. So maybe De La Garza, he's upset. But let's say I wanted to pay down his salary cap impact. You would go to contract info, and right here you've got this slider bar, salary cap impact for 2018 season. This is how much general allocation money I have. That's 1.1 million. So what I can do with this general allocation money is pay down his impact. So you see, before I pay down, he's at 225,000. So let's say I needed to get $100,000 off the salary cap. I could pay him down to 140, right? And now it costs more than what it's not a dollar for dollar situation. I've got 1.1 million. So if I wanted to pay him down to say 110, that's going to cost me more than what it is. I'm pretty sure it's not a dollar for dollar. But either way, even if it is, it's still it helps you to pay it gets you below the wage cap if you need to be. It helps you to reduce your salary. So it's not, you don't have to cut players anymore, right? But what if you don't want to cut players, then that means you're going to need lots of allocation money. So I think some FM gamers blow their allocation money. And I kind of hoard it for this purpose, right? My goal with all of this is to win the Club World Cup. That's where I want to get. Well, if I can use my general allocation money to pay down player salaries, then that's going to give me a much better chance to do that, because that's going to allow me to get better players whose salaries are higher. But to do it, I've got to get lots of general allocation money, and you get that through selling players, through domestic transfers. So you trade somebody for general allocation money, you acquire that, and so far so good for me. I've not had to pay out any general allocation money. I've only brought it in, and I'm kind of amassing it in the hopes that I can build the team that I need. It does mean also that you're going to have to let go of some players. Like, okay, I've got a situation right now. De La Garza, he is unhappy. He's upset. The guy's mad because I won't give him. He wants a contract of like $800,000. He's 30 years old. He's not good enough to give him that kind of contract. If I paid him that contract, I would have to use allocation money to get his contract down. That's like, okay. I'll just kind of show you. Offer new contract. He's not going to sign with me. But when you sign a player who's not a designated player for a contract above the wage cap, which you can only pay. There's a maximum. You can only pay. I want to say it's $450,000. That's the most a player can make if they're not a designated player, and he would not be. He first of all, he's not worth a designated player contract. But I've also already given out my 3 DP contracts. So what you'd have to do is pay his. You can use your allocation money to for basically pay a player out of designated player status. So let's see if it'll let me do it with the season already having started. So I've got Martinez. He is a designated player. And this one, it won't let you do it. But there's a way to pay a guy out of his DP status by using allocation money. You might only do it if you're trying to sign another designated player. So I would have to pay De La Garza allocation money to keep this 30-year-old guy. I'm not going to do that, right? But I'm also not just going to let him walk, because I had him under contract until 2018 through the end of this season, and then he also had a clause where I could trigger this clause to keep him for another year, and I did. So now he's stuck with me till 2019. I'm not going to give him an $800,000 contract and waste allocation money on him. So yeah, that's kind of relatively quick overview of the allocation of the acquisition process in MLS. Again, not as complicated as it might sound sometimes. It's just keep getting players under the wage cap and getting the team under the salary cap. And so this is my squad, my registration. As you saw, I'm under the salary cap. I've got 27 out of 30. I do have an off-budget spot available. I've kind of held on to that in case I want to call back one of my loan players, who we'll look at here in a moment. I only have 3 reserve players, 2 of which are homegrowns. So I could go and get another reserve player. The most I can have is 6. If I did that, it would kick up some of my senior minimum salary players up to the on-budget roster. So I've even still got a little wiggle room, but I feel like I'm in a pretty good place. Well, as good of a place as I can be without just kind of wasting money. Yeah, I mean, this team, to be honest, is not going to be as good as last year, top to bottom. But I feel better about the players that I have than I did last year. Last year was a little apprehensive because I had all these old players who were only going to get older, and I needed to get younger, and I've done that. I'll organize by position here. Goalkeeper, I've got Mendoza, 22. He's on par with Seitz, and as you can tell, my scouts tell me he's got much higher potential than Seitz. So Seitz is not going to get any better than he is now, but Mendoza is, and so that's a good situation. Fullback, I went and brought in Palencia for a loan. I'll only have him this season. He will not be here next year, but he's still really good for this year. He's going to help me kind of develop the guys behind him. Behind him, I do have Billy Denny, who's a right back. He probably won't ever develop into this great right back, but he'll be decent enough. I kind of see him as being a guy who will be able to spell my future right back, whoever I do manage to bring in long term. Left back, I'm starting Ortega. Right now I have my second team in to play this game against Inter Miami, which I may or may not play depending on how long this video is going. It looks like where am I at now? Yeah, probably won't play the game because this video is going a little long. But so Ortega is my starting left back, and I'm developing Michael Lopez behind him. But Michael Lopez, truth is, might someday be my starting right back, as he's a decent prospect. Center back, I've got Younger. Gone is Senderos. I do still have De La Garza, who will probably start at center back for most of the year. I also have Machado, who can play on the right. He can play inside. But then I also have some young guys. So I've got Murillo, who I've loaned in, but I am still hopeful that I can get him long term. I can sign him. We'll see, because I might be hurting myself because he's doing so well for me. It might make it harder for me to sign him, but even if I don't, I do also have Funmayor, who is going to get better, probably starting quality in MLS. So, and then I've got Leonardo, who is older, but for this year, center back, I'm decent. That is a position that's going to be a position of need next year. Let's put it that way. Center mid, so my defensive mids, I've got Julio Rush, I've got, or Rush, not sure how to pronounce that. But then I've also got Cabezas, defensive mid, two really good options. Cabezas actually starts at the defensive mid, while Rush starts at my deep lying playmaker center mid. But, and I've got Saren, and then also center mid, kind of the more attacking center mid. Well, Mimo Rodriguez and Alexander can play either position at center mid, either my more sitting back or my attacking one. But I also got Martinez. He is my starting attacking mid, and he's really good. He was MLS Player of the Year last year. He's exactly what I need for that position. And he's young. He's only 23, so that's good. Moving to wing. My starting three of Arturo Alvarez. Well, actually, right now it's Menottes on the right, Breck Shea on the left. Where did you go, Breck Shea? I don't know. Oh, I think maybe because he's also a defender, he's probably back here somewhere. Yeah, right here. So Breck Shea is my left wing. Albert Elise, center striker. But I still got old man Alvarez. He can play on any position on the front three. And then my young guys who I'm developing for the future, Mark Richards and Martinez on the right. One of those guys is probably I'm going to try and develop as a striker, and then Alonso on the left. And then striker, I've got Phil Johnson, 17 years old, going to work to try and make him into the kind of striker that I like to have. And then I've also got, where is he? Ortega. He is another player I'm planning on developing into a center striker. So the squad is younger. It's not as good as last year, but like the guys I have, I feel better about. These are guys that I'm developing instead of trying to figure out how to get rid of for somebody else. So, and so far this season, we'll just look at my preseason, and the results so far. So I went on a tour of Japan. A lot of green there. That's all good. No red. I haven't lost yet this season. So on my tour of Japan, I won every match except for a game against the Kashima Antlers, who I've made into an affiliate, actually. I dominated that game but couldn't score. It was, I don't remember if it was my first or second. Oh, that was when I was rotating. The second team played the first half and had a lot of chances but couldn't finish it, and then we just couldn't score. So from there, we played S-Pulse and Jubilo. We won both of those. And then we had our series of friendlies before our preseason tournament, the IMG Suncoast Classic, which we had a nice win against Cruzeiro, a Brazilian team. That was good. It was an impressive performance by my team. We didn't run them off the pitch, but we controlled the game, and the 2-0 result was fully deserved. Then we beat Chicago and rounded out group play with a win against San Jose. I started my first team against San Jose, but I wanted my first team to be fresh for the championship. So I subbed in my second team to finish the game, and they gave up a goal or two. I don't remember what the situation was. Made it a little closer than it needed to be. But the truth is, a draw, even a one-goal loss, would have got me to the championship game, where I went and defeated Inter Miami. I'm getting ready to play shortly. So that led me into the season. Drew the Red Bulls away. Then had a little friendly against my Brazos Valley, my PDL affiliate, which I dominated, but only won 2-0 with my second team. And then I had this is one of my favorite results for this team. We absolutely crushed at this game. We put New England to the sword, 5-0. And so that was a good result. It was just one of those results where everything kind of came together. Everything went right. We finished all of our best chances, and so 5-0. That was good. Then away to DC United. This one was a little frustrating. We had this game won. I'm pretty sure we were up 2-0. And then in the second half, I made some tactical errors in this one. Oh no, this is the one where I had to come from. So I'm up 1-0, and then DC United scores 2 goals in 3 minutes, and so and then Minotes scored the equalizer. It was like a bang 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 situation. And in the second half, we controlled the ball. We just couldn't. DC United went to the 4-2-2-2 with right left midfielders and then 2 defensive mids. So they were packing it in, and we just struggled to create chances. And so we ended up with a draw. Not the worst result, right? If you can win all your home games and draw all your away games, then you're going to easily win the Supporter Shield probably. So that's where we are. 3 games into the season, we've got 5 points. We're not first place, not close, but for this team, I'd say it's a good start. We're 5 points behind first place Galaxy with 2 games in hand. So if we were to win both of those matches, the difference there, we would be in first place. So that's where things stand. If you have any questions on player acquisition in MLS, any questions on anything else, if you have any suggestions for how I could do this better, please let me know in the comments. But this was Uncle Sam FM playing Football Manager, playing MLS.